guys, welcome back to Simply Basic Recipes. Today we're going to make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cake. So to start off with, I've got a picture of a Ninja Turtle because I'm going to carve the cake into this shape. So I'm going to look at my phone here and check out how I want to do it. So I've got two 8-inch round cakes. You can do whatever size cakes you want. So you want to make sure that you do a dense cake so you can carve it and it doesn't crumble all over the place while you're carving it. So that's just what I'm doing here. I'm going to look at the picture and carve out the shape, and then we'll get to icing and decorating. Now when you get your face carved out of the cake, you can take your homemade buttercream frosting like I've got here, and I'm going to frost the inside. I'm going to give the inside a generous frosting because the outside's not going to have quite as much because we're going to cover it in fondant. So once you get the inside done, we're going to frost the outside very lightly and the top, and we're going to smooth it out as smooth as we possibly can, because you don't want a lot of icing bunched up in different places because that's what causes air bubbles. You just want to do a thin layer and smooth it out as best as possible. So I've got my cake smoothed out, and I'm just going to take some of my homemade marshmallow fondant, and I've dyed it green already. So I'm going to put some powdered sugar on the work surface and on top of my rolling pin and rub it around. And I'm going to roll out my fondant, and when I get it to the size I need to cover the cake, I'm going to put my rolling pin here, and I'm just going to make sure that it's got enough powdered sugar on top of the fondant to roll up on the rolling pin, and then I can just drop it on top of the cake. Once you get the fondant on top of the cake, you want to kind of work quickly. You want to start at the top and smooth out the top on top of the turtle's face as best you can, and then just kind of stretch and pat down on the sides and get all the creases and crevices. If you don't stretch it a little bit whenever you lay it and flatten it out on the sides, you're going to end up with creases. So you don't want to just keep flattening it all the way around and not stretching it out as you go. So that's what keeps the creases and the folding out of the sides of the fondant when you lay it on a cake. So when you're happy with how you have the top and the sides of the fondant, you can use your fondant smoother and just go over the edges and make sure they're tucked in on the side of the cake and they're not laying out. Then you can take a pizza cutter and just go around the edge of the cake, and it cuts a nice line around the bottom of the cake and leaves a nice clean smooth edge. So I don't want to leave these raw edges around the bottom of the cake. I'm going to take some of my leftover green fondant and just roll a little line like a little snake out of it, and you're going to wrap it around the bottom of the cake, and that will just make everything look finished and look nice and not have any raw edges around the bottom. Now the turtle we're going to make is Raphael, so I'm going to take some homemade red fondant that I've already dyed red. I'm just going to roll it out. And I don't ever use a template because I don't feel like it shows your creativity if you use a template. Anyone can use a template and do it perfect. So I think it shows more of your artistic ability if you just do it freehand. So I encourage you guys to try it out. Try not to do a template. Just see what you can do on your own, and then you'll be more proud of yourself in the end. So I'm just going to hold this up to the cake and make sure that it looks like it's about the right size, and it is. So now I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife, or a clean X-Acto knife, and I'm going to cut out a shape of his bandana, and then I'm just going to place it on top of his head where it should go, and then cut off the raw edge on the side with an X-Acto knife. The other side I'm going to leave it long because I'm going to place the tied part of the bandana where the long edges hang off the back of his head. I'm going to leave that on that side, so I want to keep this long edge on the side of his head there. Next, I'm going to take some of my homemade white fondant, and I'm going to roll it out very, very thin. And I'm going to use my X-Acto knife, and while still looking at my picture on my phone of the cartoon Ninja Turtle that I want to make, I'm going to cut out the shape of the eyeballs. Now I'm just going to freehand this just like I did the rest of the cake and the fondant, and I'm just going to, when I get done with that, I'm just going to place it on top of the bandana where they look like they should go from the photo. Next, I'm just going to roll out my black fondant, and I'm going to cut out the pupils, the black pupils of his eyes. So the eyes have like a little, they look kind of like a hoof. They're round on one side, and then they kind of go in a triangular shape on the other side. So I'm going to try and cut that out and freehand it with my X-Acto knife, just like I did the eyes and the bandana. And once I get those cut out and I'm happy with them, I'm going to place those on the eye there. And this is going to be very, very thin also. Don't make these pupils very thick. You just want it to be very thin so they kind of blend in with the bandana and the rest of the eye. Now that really brought him to life. You can see how he looks here with his pupils and his eyeballs. He looks a lot better now and more realistic. So don't worry about all the powdered sugar that you've got on top of the fondant. I'm going to show you how to clean that up really good in just a few minutes once we get the cake decorated. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to take some more of the black fondant and I'm just going to roll out it very, very thin, just like I did the eyeballs and the pupils. And I'm going to freehand with my X-Acto knife the Ninja Turtle's mouth. So I'm going to make this one smiling. I'm not going to show any teeth or anything. He's just going to be just like the cartoons. He's going to have an open black mouth. It's going to be very simple. You can just watch how I'm cutting that out here. And once I'm happy with the shape of the mouth, see, I can just keep bringing it over to the cake, and it looks a little big, so I'm just going to bring it back to the table, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller until I'm happy with it. It's got enough powdered sugar, it's not going to stick to the fondant and pull it or anything, so it's okay to bring it over to the cake and try it and see if it looks good, and then if it doesn't, bring it back over and work on it. It's not like it's something that once you take it over to the cake, it's permanent. It's going to have to stay there. So that's the good thing about fondant. So once I'm happy with how big the mouth is, I'm going to take some of my pink fondant and I'm going to make a tongue. So we're not quite finished with the cake yet, but the finishing touches, I'm going to use regular icing and pipe it on. So what I'm going to do now, I've got a very tiny bit of Crisco left in my jar. I'm about to throw the jar away. So I'm just going to use a wide tipped paintbrush and I'm going to dip it inside the jar. And I'm just going to put very little Crisco on the tip of the brush, just barely touch the Crisco with the tip of the brush, and I'm just going to paint it on the cake just all around it. And it's not going to make it shiny, it's not going to make it greasy or anything like that. It's just going to take the powdered sugar off and give it a clean look. So that's all I'm doing right now. I'm just going to go all over the cake. Now I'm finished with the Crisco and the paintbrush. You can really see how it finished up the cake and it looks really, really good. So now I'm going to trace around everything on the cake in black that I just did. So I'm going to give him little creases on his mouth where the cheeks would be while he's smiling there. And then I'm going to go around the bandana in black, and I'm going to go around the white part of his eyeballs in black. And then your cake is finished. And here is what the finished cake looks like. I hope you guys will give this video a try if you know someone that's a big Ninja Turtles fan, because this cake was super easy to do. I'm not a professional by any means, and it was very simple, and the cake looks great. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I have a new video every week, and I will see you in my next baking video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.